The Education Collaborative was envisioned by Ashesi University back in 2016 when in thinking about our scale strategy as a university, we asked ourselves, how quickly can we really bring about this African Renaissance if we're just doing it within ourselves at Ashesi University? So in thinking around this goal for transformation, we asked ourselves, could we rather bring along other institutions on the continent who buy into this similar vision to work together to really rapidly and quickly scale the outcomes for students on the continent. And so in achieving that, we've had to work through the differences in culture, the differences in context, the differences in types of institution, right? So those have really been our biggest challenges. And in tackling that, we've had to take a very organic approach to building the relationships and the connections that we've established in the Education Collaborative. So I would say the university leaders really have been our biggest ally, working through the kinks together, working through how to collaborate more efficiently and effectively, and helping us to determine where to prioritize resources and efforts to ensure the best outcomes. Also, a very notable ally has been the MasterCard Foundation in believing in this vision, in this initiative, and supporting through its resourcing for the next few years. In the last 3 years, we have been rolling out our 10-year strategy, ending in 2030. In doing that, we've really figured out how best to set up a regional hub, because the Education Collaborative is organized or implemented through regional hubs to drive further contextualization and relevance of the solutions and the sharing that happens. And in the last 3 years, one of the biggest successes is setting up these regional hubs. We set up East African Hub with about 10 institutions being the anchors in that region. And then we set up with the West Africa regional hubs with close to 15 higher education institutions really driving priorities in that region. So the future looks like institutions seamlessly working towards one goal for transformative higher education in Africa. And I think that's one of the biggest goals we are working towards in the Education Collaborative, to build a certain culture of trust such that institutions at any point feel like they can rely on each other to learn, to address challenges, and to make progress in giving quality education to the students that come through their systems and structures.
Thank you so much, Grace. Good day, everyone. On behalf of Covenant University and the Education Collaborative, I want to welcome you to the fourth and final webinar in our webinar series on grant writing. Thank you for consistently being a part of this webinar series. To welcome us properly, I have the privilege to invite the Vice Chancellor of Covenant University, Professor Abiodun Adebayo, for his introductory and welcome remark. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Isaac Akinwumi. It's indeed an honor to be here today and to have everyone join and connect with this last in a series of this webinar series in this grant writing adventure that we have been on for some time now. I would like to deeply appreciate the efforts of the Education Collaborative, by Ashesi University for indeed partnering with. Grateful to this university. There is a lot of things, commonalities that we have shared. There's a lot of deep connectivity that we have in common. And thank you so much for being a worthy partner. And I'd like again to appreciate our previous facilitators who have really done very well, beginning with Professor Okonofua of University of Benin, a very great scholar who sets the ball rolling. And we had, the last one we had was Professor Obo from the Federal University of Technology, Akure, who also came in to put some icing on the cake. Today, we're going to have another worthy scholar, another worthy presenter, all the way from the University of Johannesburg, Dr. Dawn, who is going to be making it budgeting and the control. And, you know, you will all agree with me that budgeting is a critical factor. Whether your proposal will sail through determines a whole lot on when it comes to funding a project of that fund, it may affect your proposal. If you equally over budgeted, it will certainly affect you. So we have an expert today who's going to show us the way on how to go about this. And I'm happy that our very long relationship with the University of Johannesburg has equally paved this way to have Dr. Dawn come our way to make this presentation. Thank you so much for coming to make this presentation today. I'd like to ask all our participants to please stay tuned, stay connected. I'm sure you're going to gain so much from today's presentation. So on this note, I'd like to welcome all of us again and to say, please listen, ask questions, don't keep quiet, because the whole essence of this presentation is to see how we can take this to the next level, is to improve on ourselves, to improve on our institution, and of course, to improve the continent of Africa. Once again, thank you and God bless.
Thank you so much, the Vice Chancellor of Covenant University, Professor Abiodun Adebayo. Just like the Vice Chancellor mentioned, the three previous webinars were inspiring, were loaded with useful information, and they were insightful. And all the three speakers, they emphasized the importance of having an appropriate budget. So we have a distinguished scholar that will take us through in the next 40 to 45 minutes on budgeting essentials for grant proposals, creating realistic and impactful budget. So I'll read a brief citation of the speaker, Dr. Dawn Nagar, before her presentation. Dr. Dawn Nagar holds a Doctor of Philosophy degree in International Relations from the University of Witwatersrand, Johannesburg, and obtained 2 master's degrees in Politics and International Relations from the University of Cape Town, and in Philosophy, Conflict, and Conflict Management from the University of Port Elizabeth, now known as the University of Nelson Mandela. She is currently an academic specialist and proposal writer at the University of Johannesburg's Development Office and Finance Division in South Africa. She has 17 years experience in a fundraising think tank environment at the former Cape Town-based Center for Conflict Resolution. Between 2018 and 2021, she worked in various fundraising capacities at the University of Johannesburg Faculty of Humanities as an academic specialist, and since 2022 at the University of Johannesburg Development Office. She is the author of numerous book chapters, journal articles, and book volumes, including 3 edited volumes and 2 single-authored books on Africa's region building efforts, bilateral and multilateral relations with fields of concentration of the African Continental Free Trade Area, which discusses endogenous economic growth models within a 4th industrial revolution area. Dr. Nagar's most recent book of 2022 focuses on challenging the United Nations Peace and Security Agenda in Africa, published by Palgrave Macmillan and Springer Nature, New York and Switzerland, respectively. I therefore welcome Dr. Dawn Nagar for her presentation. Over to you, Dr. Nagar.
Thank you so much, Dr. Akinwumi, and thank you to your head, Professor Adebayo. And I am very grateful to be here today and to have been invited to participate and share in this very important effort, let's say our continental effort of learning and knowledge sharing and production. So without further ado, I'll share my presentation. So good afternoon. I just wanted to move all these things from my screen so that I can see. Yeah. So good afternoon, honorable participants to this virtual seminar on budget essentials for grant proposals and creating realistic and impactful budget plans. Now, to write a budget in an Excel, it's very easy and it's simple, but the approach that we are proposing here is we're looking at individual research budgets for research activities nationally, regionally, and globally. We are looking at research budgets for a project activity within a university and a collaborative partnership research budget. Now, the fundamentals that will inform us how we develop project research budgets, that is what is, we need to understand what is our overall theory of change in our research project. That's the first step for me that will inform how we're going to approach our research budget. And in order to achieve our theory of change, what is our overall goal hierarchy? This is our progressive impact model. How are we going to achieve our goal hierarchy? What are our key factors? And who are our key actors, including all our beneficiaries? What is our sustainability approach that is informing our research project and budget? So that is the fundamentals where we start in developing project research budgets. Now, overall theory of change, this is, which is just a small snippet, and most of this we know, so I do apologize, but just for purposes of this discussion, which is the major vision, the mission statement of the research project, which will inform our budget essentials. Our goal hierarchy informs us how we are going to reach the theory of change. So our goal hierarchy inform us how we are going to reach the theory of change. Through this research project, what is it, what will be achieved? What is our overall impact? How we're looking at our activities, when, our timelines, what outcome indicators and output indicators inform us that we are following our overall budget, which inadvertently reach our theory of change. And I have a small note there. We need to also conduct a thorough research analysis, understand who and what the needs of our donors are. The donors' funding criteria clearly incorporated into the goal hierarchy to inform our budgets as are aligned to the respective academic funding project needs. While executing our work, we remain conscientious and conscious of adherence to the university's funding principles and its ethics and policy documents, besides the donors. But what donors want to see is our goal hierarchy and how that informs our budgets. So I've given an example here of a theory of change contributing towards effective climate change risks within healthcare institutional architecture frameworks in Africa. Now, my research budget is what is our impact? And this would inform my research budget, but this is where I start. My impact, what was achieved or what will be achieved, my expected results will show me our beneficiaries have increased appreciation and they have commitment to linking climate change and healthcare institutions. And I've chosen 5 African countries targeted with the development of a community practice hub established with an increased African youth intelligence with dynamism. Now, how do I know that I've achieved those expected results? Is based on my indicators. It shows me that I have an existence of a functional, multi-sectoral and multi-stakeholder coordination body. I've got cumulative number 20 partnerships, for example, among governments, private sector, academia, and NGOs that have been created. And in my first baseline here, I've done a data tool frameworks and research lab for field research, which is firmly established. This is my overall impact. In my target here 1, I've completed 5 country case studies, 1 times regional research, public dialogue. So this is where the goal hierarchy comes into play. We are climbing up a steep hill. We're going progressively and we're imparting knowledge. So in target here 2, I have 1 times regional research public dialogue that I'm conducting. We are looking at 1 research policy seminar. We have 3 seminar reports with critical recommendations published and widely disseminated. I'm sorry about the typo. 1 times book on climate change and healthcare institution communities is in the process of being published over a 2-year period, which will be published in year 3. So when I moved over in final target year 3, I've got 1 published book. We've written 26 journal articles, 28 op-eds, 2 research public dialogue reports, 1 research policy seminar report. We have 1 times teaching manual and 1 times training the trainers manual, which has been produced. We have online communications networks, which are established. Now, how do I know that my impact have these expected results indicators? And over these 3 years, my data source of education shows me that evaluation reports of training workshops. It shows me in my annual reports, in our book, in our journal articles, in the op-eds that we've written, in the healthcare infrastructure development, buildings aligned to climate mitigating risk strategy that are initiated. We have regular reports to the donors with budget reports. We have reached 10,000 participants trained, including students, civil society, policymakers, and among others. And then the final column is our monitoring and evaluation and sustainability of our project, which will inform our research budget through our pre and post monitoring and evaluation questionnaires conducted. The results show that we have established collaborative partnerships across climate change and healthcare institution communities within our 5 African targeted countries. We have established a community of practice within higher education institutions involving 5 African countries within the climate change and healthcare fraternity. And through our multi-interdisciplinary approach of collaborative African partnership, our research students, after throughput, have jobs that meet the real world challenges and the reality that we are facing in health centers, addressing infrastructural gaps, such as renewable green electricity, energy that is being generated for water pumps for healthcare centers. We are conscious and we're taking lessons that are learned from the post-COVID-19 pandemic. So just to give an overview that the theory of change, just to cap, is looking at contributing towards effective climate change risks within healthcare institutional architecture frameworks in Africa, just as by way of example for this discussion and what is our impact. So we've looked at our impact, and this is what we're going to be achieving or have achieved. So how are we going to achieve our impact, our research project activities? Again, by way of example, we are aiming to impact SDGs, notably Agenda 2063, Aspiration 1, Goal 3. We're looking healthier and well-nourished citizens, etc. Agenda 2063, Aspiration 1, Goal 7. We are putting in place measures for environment, sustainable climate and resilient economies and communities. And we are also looking at the UN Agenda 2030 SDGs 1.5 by 2030, which is very close. We're building the resilience of the poor and those in vulnerable situations and reducing the exposure to climate-related extreme events and other economic, social, and environmental shocks and disasters, and so on. But most importantly, to reach our impact, which is informing our budget, is our first year. This speaks to the previous slide. The baseline, year naught, we're going to have data analytical tools and frameworks created for field research. We're taking into account both quantitative and qualitative methodology approaches, including interview research questionnaires. Then we're going to go on to year 1 and 2, research training of communities. In year 2 and 3, we are looking at developing a training the trainer manual. Then 4.3, we're looking at research public dialogues with our broader community, and we are learning from each other. And then in year 5, we're using a research policy seminar methodology to get our book publication approach. We're using that research policy seminar methodology, which we will speak to soon. Then our research publications, what we will gain from this and will inform our budget is our research public dialogue, research seminar reports, year 1 and 2, our publications of journal articles, opinion editorials, our book, year 2, which is commenced after the policy seminar and published in year 3, and then our pre and post evaluation tools to assess policy recommendations emerging from research work, which is critical to getting funding, and particularly from seminars, which are tracked and evaluated to assess implementation level by policymakers within our example that we use in climate change and health practitioners, based on our participants engaging in and relevant to our project. And monitoring and evaluation questionnaires must demonstrate as well our book usage and its relevance. So the action verbs and nouns within impact and evaluation and monitoring informs how the budget is going to look. So what the funders want to see is our baseline survey. We're looking at theme 1. What is the outcome indicator? And I'm using level 1 there. Our expected result is for our data analytical tools and frameworks created for field research, both quantitative and qualitative methodology approaches include interviews and research questionnaires. We have strengthened awareness and appreciation of research knowledge on climate change, adaptation and healthcare processes at local level, by bearing in mind we're working in 5 countries. Indicators show that percentage of targeted population are now aware because of our baseline and what we have, our interview approach adopted. They are aware of predicted adverse impacts of climate change and healthcare, and the baseline we're giving an 80%, and that is debatable according to each academic in this room and how you work. Then our data source of verification, you can see at outcome for outcome indicator level 1, there's nothing going on in year 1 and 2 because this is our baseline. And then our data source of verification, we're looking at data analytical tools, econometric tools, our household surveys, field surveys, research reports, and these are just examples. Country case study, emissions logs, our health clinic centers and infrastructure assessments. And then in terms of our M&E approaches and sustainability, our field work research questionnaires, building a core base of researchers with masters and PhD. We can add their postdoctoral research fellows and students to take the research forward. Now we come down to our outcome 2, level 2. We're looking at a stronger case because this is our goal hierarchy and to reach our goal hierarchy, our case have to become stronger. We have to involve more people. There have to be a snowball effect. We have now touched the low-hanging fruits. Now we're going broader. There's evidence, we can see evidence of targeted population groups participating now. They are participating in adaptation and risk reduction, awareness, research, survey activities. We want to see our communities and our own people working within these 5 countries now doing and analyzing and using the data and the information and knowledge through innovative approaches. Our indicators show that the percentage of targeted population, because of our approach of our population implementing appropriate research responses, have increased. So in target year 1, there's 50%. Target year 2, we looked at 60%. We're increasing. In target year 3, we want to reach 70%. Our data source of verification shows household perception surveys, contents of the party reports, the Paris agreements aligned to the 5 case studies, national country reports. Our field work results shows how we've achieved our outcome level 2. Then very importantly, our outputs, which is very different, and that is tangible results, the number of people trying to generate, analyze, and use the data, information, knowledge, and innovations have increased to 50% in target year 1, in 60% target year 2. In our final target year, what we would like to see is 80%, 200 people focusing on students, masters and PhDs, looking at a greater female-male ratio, given our continental statistics in terms of the gender imbalance, and then looking at our higher education institutions within the 5 countries. The introductory video was so informative for me, so I really loved that hub approach of this education collaborative. And so this we have higher education institutions forming this hub. And then our evaluation reports as our source of verification. That is what the funder wants to see. The source of verification, evaluation reports, the research labs in place across 5 countries targeted. And then our masters and PhD students looking at sustainability our knowledge hubs and capacitated with field research through artificial intelligence, technological advancements are apt within a 4IR, and we're using models towards a 5.0 era aligned to the job market. Now, if you look at theme 2, we're also looking at a training research project. This will also inform our budget and how it's going to be rolled out. Our outcome indicator level 1, training conducted across 5 African countries. That is our expected result. Through this training, there's a strengthened awareness, because at this point, when we just come in and do it, there's only a strengthened awareness and appreciation at indicator level 1 of research knowledge on climate change and adaptation and healthcare processes at regional and national level, one can say. And our indicators show us that the percentage of targeted population are aware of predicted adverse effects, etc. And this in target year 1, we had 60% of our participants that are that we have managed through training to gain strengthened awareness and appreciation on climate change adaptation and its mitigating risks. Within healthcare processes, in target year 2, we're going up. So the goal hierarchy is increasing. We have 75%. In final target year, we're looking at 80%. And all these percentages are examples. They are debatable. What informs us, our outcome level 1, our data analytical tools, again, our econometric tools, our household surveys, our field surveys, our research reports, our country case study emissions logs, health clinic centers and infrastructure assessments, our sustainability and M&E approach, very important to inform our research budget, is our field work research questionnaires, and we're building a core base of researchers to take our work forward. Outcome indicator level 1, we are still at level 1, and target year 2, we are looking at participants are knowledgeable and understand research analytical tools much more clearly. And we're looking at a target of 75% because our goal hierarchy is increasing consistently as we are doing and rolling out our work. Our output level 2, the training, we're looking now at training the trainer, because we have done training the model in outcome level 1. In the output level 2, just to save time, I'm going straight into the output level. We have evidence of targeted population groups participating in and conducting training the trainer workshops based on research training activities, largely focused on how to conduct adaptation and risk reduction awareness. We have a number of people trained exponentially increased, and they can generate, analyze, and use data, information, knowledge, and innovations through our training the trainers approach. Our indicators show us that the percentage of target population has significantly increased owing to the training of the trainer model being rolled out within the 5 African countries. More people are becoming aware of appropriate responses to reverse the effects of climate change and its impacts on healthcare centers. In target year 1, through the training the trainer, we are ourselves as the, let's say, the technocrats are not doing the training now. The trainers who have been empowered are taking this forward. We're looking at 60% and 70% in year 2. In year 3, we're looking at empowering again our youth, our students. They are critical to our work, and hence our data source of verification will show our evaluation reports. It must show what we have achieved, how have we achieved it, where is the evidence. Our research lab is in place across 5 countries. We can show that we've got a training manual, and we can show that we've written up the trainer's manual. Again, our sustainability and M&E approaches are critical in fieldwork research and how it's being done and executed. Our master's and PhD students are knowledge hubs, and they are taking the work forward in terms of 4IR and artificial intelligence towards a 5-point era to align them into the real world and the real job market. Moving over within our research project to again our overall theory of change, and taking into account our goal hierarchy, we are going to do a research public dialogue as well. So at outcome indicator level 1, our budget will show us when we get there, we have strength and understanding. Our expected result is strength and understanding, awareness and appreciation of research, knowledge and climate change adaptation, and healthcare process at local and continental levels. Our indicators 100% of targeted actors include policymakers, academics, government officials, and civil society organizations. And I've just said they attended government universities, research, public dialogue, and through participatory dialogue and conversations, participants at this stage are aware of predicted adverse impacts of climate change and healthcare. We've done this in target year 1. We've done 1 research public dialogue in target year 2. We're doing another research public dialogue, a data source of verification that informs us of how we've achieved this outcome indicator level 1 and expected results. Our M&E questionnaire populated and disseminated immediately after the last session. And I'm quite specific here because this is based on my own years of experience, and this is again debatable because this is knowledge sharing. We're learning from each other. So I'm just giving an example immediately after the last session of the research public dialogue to participants who attended both dialogue to ascertain our understanding, our usefulness, awareness of issues, and implementation of policy recommendations that emerged from public dialogues, and based On immediate post-evaluation public dialogue, M&E questionnaire public dialogue participants have, when we have looked at the results of that M&E and we've summarized all the questions, we saw that they have an increased appreciation, awareness, and understanding of adverse impacts on climate change and healthcare. Our sustainability approaches as public dialogue participants are kept engaged through follow-up questionnaires and meetings, and M&E post-public dialogue questionnaires are consistent. We have media involvement, and there are other sustainability ways of keeping the project approach. When we get to the same research public dialogue, our outcome indicator level 2, if we go to our data source of verification, to the second last column, our policy recommendations populated and forwarded to all participants immediately 2 to 4 days post the research public dialogue, because we have, from our seminar, we have a recommendation that have emerged, and the research public dialogue report is this. We want to disseminate this within 8 weeks of our seminar once a report is produced, and our M&E questionnaire populated and disseminated 12 weeks post the research public dialogue. So we want to give our participants an opportunity to process the information and to see, and then we can ask how is the understanding, the usefulness, the awareness of the issues and implementation of policy recommendations that emerge from public dialogues. Our data source shows us our verification is our M&E evaluation question is again, our responses, our project reports to our donors. We are writing 4 op-eds and we've written 2 journal articles. We've targeted 75% of policymakers and government officials and civil society organizations. And we've incorporated the policy recommendations with regard to reversing the adverse impacts of climate change and healthcare practice into our work. That is our outputs. If we look at level 2 outputs, we have 10 policy recommendations, for example, are relevant to the work of key actors. If you look at the indicators, critical actors receive follow-ups from, and I've used Covenant University by way of example, specialists and academic practitioners in this field. If now turning to our third theme that will inform our research budget is our research policy seminar, and this is what donors want to see, is our outcome indicator level 1. What is our expected result at this? And just to save time, I'm not going to go through each and every one. Our indicators show 100% of targeted actors include our policymakers, academia, government officials, policymakers, and civil society organizations attended the policy research seminar. We have 1 policy seminar that a research policy seminar we are conducting in year 2. Our data source verification is again the M&E approach. And in our outcome indicator 2, level 2, we have 20 key specialists that we've invited to this policy research seminar on climate change and healthcare to present their work on panel sessions over a 2-day seminar approach we're going to take. And we're including the student communities, the masters, and PhD postdoc research fellows, etc. And out of this research policy seminar, methodology approach is going to be a book publication that will be emerging. In output indicators level 2, what our expected results have shown us that we have 20 key, our indicators show 20 key specialists on climate change and healthcare presented their work on 8 panel sessions over 2 days seminar approach. And we have 1 seminar report in target year 2, got 15 to 20 chapter book volume that commences. We've got 8 op-eds that we've written. We've got 8 journal articles that we published. In our final target here, we've got 1 book volume that is being published. We've got 10 op-eds published, 10 journal articles published. Our data source of verification shows us the book process is put in place, a publisher source, our TOC, our table of contents, authors, which are the 20 key specialists. They are authors, presenters at the seminar. Their contracts are in place. Their chapter deadlines are commenced. Editors are secured. Blind review process, you know, the whole book process outlined. Our style guides are done. Our editing process is outlined. Sample chapters are blind peer reviewed, for example. These are all data source examples of verification. Are successfully, the comments that we received back from blind peer reviewed are implemented are into the chapters. The publisher and Covenant University editors have a contract in place, and our book is published, and we're in the process of launching it. Now, M&E and sustainability approach shows us that we've got a research policy seminar participants, of which 20 participants are book authors. They are kept engaged through further field research. That is how we're going to sustain this project. They have discussed their work through panel discussions, and now there's an opportunity based on plenary feedback within that 2-day seminar. I'm just stepping back a bit now to look at sustainability. There is opportunity for further field to strengthen these chapters. There's media involvement, there's seminar reports, there's a book volume that will be widely disseminated. There will be I've got 1 book launch there that will be conducted. There can be several. There are book briefs that is done from the book, because not all policymakers have time to read the entire book. So we've produced a book brief that is found useful, and it's disseminated on our database that we've created. Our book is used at academic appropriate faculty levels according to the topic, and it's widely disseminated to all university libraries across Africa, because we've created this database of libraries, which is monitored and tracked. And our M&E evaluation questionnaire is populated, and a post-M&E report is provided. So this is what the donors want to see in the budget. So our output indicator at level 3, we are wanting to see sustainability of student employability, taking into account over 200 million of our youth remains unemployed in our continent. So our final target here, 3, there's 75%. I'm just giving a figure there. And this is taking into account, with many heads around the table and brain power, we can have a phenomenal research project. But so this is just an idea. Number of students employed as technocrats in this field. This is our data source of verification. We introduced an interdisciplinary approach. We adopted, that is, engineering practitioners. We're using green renewable energy, for example, hydrogen, solar, hydro, where we have strong, where we know our higher education institutions in Africa are very strong in our regions. We're working with Africa's key infrastructural program, like, for example, PEDA. Our M&E and sustainability approach at this level for student employability, we are exposing our students, because they're already actors and factors, it was said at the beginning of the presentation, are critical, because, and why our students have to be on panels, not on all the panels, but they have to present their theses, present their work. We're looking at strengthening Africa's intelligence. We strengthening and want to reach our African agenda and sustainable development goals. Our students are exposed to key institutions towards job creation. I'm just giving a few examples here based on the overall theory of change and our goal hierarchy: environment, science, engineering, technology, and mathematics, renewable energy. For example, the African Regional Transport Infrastructure Network, Artina, Africa's Program for Infrastructure Development. We've mentioned PEDA, we've mentioned NEPAD, our International Renewable Energy Agency. These are some of our actors. Our Africa Renewable Energy Initiative, Southern Africa Development Community Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, our East Africa's Great Rift Valley moving to East. So we're looking at a scope of all the regions. Then we move looking at our African Center for Disease Control, because we're looking at both climate change, mitigating risk, and health centers. So our AU Pan-African Program for African Transport Policy Program, our Policy and Regulation Initiative, we're looking at digitalization and a 4IR approach, so Digital Africa. And then we also want to have strong IFIs and international financial institutions present in our research project work, like the NECA, DBSA Development Bank. We can put a new development bank, BRICS Bank, and so forth, the African Development Bank, sustainability, Sustainable Energy Africa, SIA, as well as critical donors that are working in West Africa, for example, looking at renewable energy resources. These are just some examples, untapping West Africa's renewable energy potential through regional integration processes. Then in terms of theme 4, we are looking now at output indicator level 4, healthcare infrastructure and resilient climate change architecture. This is part of our activities that we outlined at the beginning. And our expected result is that government infrastructure, the vulnerability of physical, natural, and social assets are strengthened in response to climate change impacts that emerged from research work that we undertaken. And that is what we are expecting. And our indicators are showing us that we have 10 assets in each 5 African targeted countries that have improved natural resources, assets through water bridges. We have created and maintained or further developed or withstand resulting from climate change disasters pre and post. We are creating resilience through renewable green infrastructural inputs. Because we know that during COVID, many of our health clinics we couldn't access water pumping systems, operational surgical equipment, oxygen tank, gas flow pumping wasn't working, for example. So these are just by way of example for this discussion. And then in our final target here, 3, this is a very big target. So we're looking at 75%. And then our sources of verification shows us what is happening at the national level, our statistics, our research reports, our funding reports, our media outlets. And then again, we're looking at M&E, our students, and our working now in a collaborative approach with government and business actors. That is very important, to have the business industry, the government actors, and the academic, that 3-pronged approach to again sustainable development in any area of research of our work. I'm not going to go through all of that. So our overall scope of our research work shows that the African Center for Disease Control has a continental and regional presence in East, Central, West, Southern, and North Africa, and is at the forefront of tackling diseases, including Ebola, measles, and post-COVID-19 pandemic challenges, etc. And I'm just giving a snippet there why this is being conducted, just to strengthen us. I'm not going to read through all of that. But we need to have, I made a small note at the start of the presentation, we need to show to our donors why this budget is important, how it's going to work, what is the overall impact, what is our overall theory, what is the real situation on the ground, what is happening on the ground, are we having a problem, or how are we going to address it, what is the outcome level, what is the goal hierarchy level? How is the output? going to be different. Our outcome one, I beg your pardon, from outcome two is going to be different. Are we increasing, are we creating that snowball effect? And then what is actually happening while we're doing this work? And our diseases, just doing a quick research overview, we can see where our problem areas are, for example, for $2.4 billion our diseases amounted to. And so we want to take a multi-sectoral strategic approach with higher education of health sciences in order to empower our youth. We're also looking at our HIV/AIDS related deaths, especially in South Africa. It's very high in Eastern and Southern Africa. So these are just by way of example. So we're going to include key universities in Abuja, in Namibia, looking at epidemiology, biostatisticians. Ibadan, they do have strong College of Medicines and Medical Sciences and so forth. So this is what we're going to all these actors and factors are going to form part of our overall research budget as we roll out our activities. In summary, what will the result look like? Now, this research project is focused on a results-based driven monitoring and evaluation approach, and it's concerned with a level of participation to monitor our number of participants to reach our goal, our geographic location, our contributions to this project by way of field research, interview seminars, and knowledge production outputs. We're showing the donors in our funding research and budget the number of research outputs, the quality, the number of citations, for example, will be tracked to evaluate the impact of the project's findings on the wider discussion. So it cannot be rhetoric and a talk shop. We need to show, and we can prove this, and we can show how many policy recommendations that emerged from the work that we did in our public dialogues and our policy research seminars were disseminated and monitored. Our project sustainability has elevated relations that we are building among our 5 African countries. It was just by way of example throughout this project and beyond the scope of this work, critical to ensuring strong political and socioeconomic development, particularly for our vulnerable women through economic empowerment. And we are considering the build-up of creating low carbon emission economies. And that is why we are looking at a interdisciplinary approach. We're also looking at engineers and hence alluded to the hydrogen renewable energy sustainability approach taken in this project. Our research project critical actors, we've already discussed this. Our goal is to incorporate a collaborative partnership sustainability strategy to assist Africa's value-driven youth through empowering our master's students. And we've looked at these critical, I'm not going to repeat them, it's just an overview. The African Center for Disease Control, the actors and the factors here are very important in terms of being part of our research project and how they're going to be invited in. And hence we start from the baseline and then we're moving to our public dialogue, our policy research seminar, because we also want to generate knowledge. We want to write seminar reports and briefs. We want to increase knowledge production on the African continent by Africans. And this is critical, and where we have our youth involved, our students. Sorry. I'm just just to show there our critical actors in our research work towards sustainability efforts. I looked at Egypt, Nigeria, South Africa, Zambia, and Kenya, just by way of example. And this is for me the new spirit of practicing public health in Africa, where we look at including our universities, our health institutes, our private laboratories, our centers of excellence, our non-governmental organizations, our networks, and critically our business industry. Now we can look at the budget and say to the funder, this is, again, it's just, this is up to the organizers of this research. It's just an overview. I'm just trying to take these, admit it always shows on the screen. So our equipment, field work for student research, we're showing, and there can be many. The first data baseline approach, I've got all notes there, but if we need a project in-house field camera, if we need a project laptop, there should be amounts, voice recorder, etc., equipment and stationery. Sometimes our universities do have this equipment, and it's also good to show to the donor that we actually don't need funding for this. We have this in-house. So it's also welcoming to show that, and not always have funding amounts where we can bear the cost. It's also a good way, and where it's not possible, it's not possible. We're looking at each and everything, our interviews, our focus groups, our statisticians, our hiring of IT equipment, photographer, etc. Everything must be accounted for, from venue, the data analysis, and so forth. And this presentation will be made available by Dr. Akinwumi. So I'm just going through it briefly. Now we're looking just by way of a high-level regional public dialogue seminar cost. I was just saying 50 maximum, and I'm just using as a country-based Lusaka. So what donors want to say, I'm going to have the seminar in a neutral spot. I'm going to have it in the DRC. So what donors want to see is traveling the names of the list of the participants. These are my key speakers, and they are be traveling where they're coming from, the number, and what the budget is. I mean, this is not rocket science. And then the general participants that are also going to be invited. And then the Covenant, I'm sorry, I'm using Covenant University by way of example, the staff. Who's going to set up our secretariat, and that is what I mean by staff. Among others, that include our upper tiers at the seminar. That is our other travel costs, our transfer of equipment, our number of our university staff. So we have to be very specific and careful that everything is budgeted for, where we need shuttle services in the DRC. This is self-explanatory. Our reimbursement. I want to move quickly because I want to get to the M&E, the banner, and so forth, the per diems, according to what the university or the research project or the institution's policy is. So this is done in accordance to that. I put the amounts here, but these amounts is done in accordance to what the policy and the specific guidelines of the university or the institution is, which is very important to adhere to. And that will inform us in our conference venue. We want to welcome our guests, our accommodation, because we want to have a good secretariat set up before people arrive. So to see that is happening. This is now the policy seminar. So we have 3 people that will be setting up that secretariat. even the 3 staff members that will be setting up the secretariat, they have costs incurred. Everything has to be accounted for. It's hiring of sound equipment, our audio, visual, etc., and so forth. Now, at high level, the logistic costs for a high-level seminar, we've got a keynote speaker. We've got seminar speakers. This is very different. We have seminar speakers, continental, and we've got local speakers. So this is just how the project is going to envisage, how it's going to roll out. Who are the key actors and who are our key factors? Who are the speakers? Are we going to have gifts? Are we going to put that in the budget? Do we have banners already? Does the donor have to pay for that? And so forth. So
Sorry,
these
Dr.
are...
Nagar, you have 3 minutes left, please.
Okay. So having that said, thank you, Dr. Akinwumi. I'm going to wrap up now. I've just given you a very important, by way of example, I spoke about sending out a questionnaire, evaluation questionnaire immediately after the last session of a public dialogue, which is very important that otherwise we can't track what is happening. And so this has to inform our outcomes, in my view. Whereas in the post-seminar, 12 weeks after is very different. If we had a seminar contributing towards effective climate change mitigating risks, if we've asked brief questions, have the recommendations made an impact to your work? Those are the type of questions that must be asked. Have you used the content? Have you, your organization, disseminated the policy brief? And that shows the goal hierarchy. Is it moving beyond just the organization? Have you co-hosted an event, co-written a paper, and so forth? And then just to wrap up, monitoring tools, I've provided a wrap-up there for our those who are participating in this webinar. You can have a look at that, our methodology, and our key indicators, our publications. How are we tracking our publications? How are we monitoring it? And I think my 3 minutes is way up. Thank you for your participation, and thank you, Dr. Akinwumi and Professor Adebayo. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dawn Nagar. Thank you for that presentation. It's you used a case study to highlight what should inform the items that should go into a comprehensive budget preparation. And you used a very large project. And I know that a number of persons who have not been involved in preparing a budget for a very large project like the one you used may find it very difficult to follow. Yes, but you told us that the theory of change is very important, the goal hierarchy, and how you achieve the goal hierarchy, the key factors and critical actors, the sustainability approach, and M and E. So without wasting further time, anytime, I want us to invite persons who have questions. I can't see any question on the chat box, but if you do have any question, please indicate by raising your hand using the raise of hand icon.
Dr. Akinwumi,
yes?
did you already read the question in the chat? There was
Okay.
one in the chat.
Okay, please can you read
Okay,
it?
let me read it. It says, Dear Dr. Dawn, thank you for your lovely introduction of the presentation and knowledge sharing of your amazing project. I have a question regarding the theme 3, related to the source of verification. What was the most difficult in this implementation in this implementation of policy recommendation stage? And what would you do differently in this stage, if any?
Thank you, Dr. Akinwumi. Thank you so much to the participant for that wonderful, insightful question. Sources of verification becomes quite intricate if we do not tie it directly with the expected, what is it that I want out of this project? And the buy-in and the confidence building and rapport building within fieldwork research is very important to build research. Personally, I used an example. I have not worked in healthcare institutions. I've done field research just by a source of verification. I've done field research in other areas, in renewable energy, in regional building, but not healthcare specifically. I've written proposals on healthcare, so I just want to clarify that. But in terms of sources of verification and the most difficult challenge, to mitigate that challenge, I'm going to answer you from that side. I'll flip the question around, is to look at the rapport building and building. Otherwise, the data at the field of data analysis and the baseline data will not work. If it is a one show, it has to be a participation approach and a participatory approach, and must be a team effort. It cannot be a one-man show. It will never work. And it has to be driven by the needs that's happening on the ground, because one can go in there with your own concepts and visions, but it has to be the real needs. If it's a water pump that's not working, then it's a water pump that's going to cause conflict and deaths. And so I'll stop there, Dr. Akinwumi. I hope I've answered you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dawn. I want to ask a question. Can you just tell us some of the best practices in estimating some of the budget costs accurately and the common pitfalls that participants should avoid?
Thank you, Dr. Akinwumi. The best practice is if our activities must align, the budget must align to the activities. That is why I found it when you asked me to do this presentation, Dr. Akinwumi, looking at what you asked me in my task for this job that you asked me to do, I found it very difficult to go and come here and present a budget. So I'm going to answer you from that point of view. To present a budget and have no activities and understanding of what it is that I want to change. So the biggest pitfall is that I know I'm not going to get funding if I cannot show my goal hierarchy and I cannot show my activities and then there are missing links in my budget. All of a sudden I have a book that's going to be published, but I cannot, it's not mentioned in my activities, for example. Or all of a sudden I have 20 authors that's going to be writing and I cannot show for that. And the most basic thing is if we can stick to, if the conference is 2 days, we try, the golden rule is to minimize the budget. So we make it attractive, the venue attractive, so also to attract our participants, but not to go on shopping sprees. I'm sorry for using that word because we love to explore, but to have I apologize, but to make it attractive, but not to overextend our accommodation. We have to stick to 2 days. If our 2 nights of accommodation, that's 2 nights of accommodation. If our participants want to stay for another night, then that's for their own cost. So we adhere to the university's funding principles and ethics. That is what the donors want us to see. And those are small pitfalls. And then never to under budget. And
Thank you.
of course, I think the rest, we know our work. I don't want to go into nitty-gritty.
Thank you. Yes, you have. Thank you very much. We have one question in the chat box. Dr. Dawn, could you provide more explanation why your budget was not according to year 1, year 2, and year 3 based on the monitoring and evaluation performance plan? Or is the budget example a donor template?
It's a very good observation from the participant and an excellent question. What it showed, I only showed it because I was up to 37 slides. So, and I knew I have time frames, but I tried to bring it in to the database, the baseline survey, where the statisticians are. But it's, if you don't have activities in year 2, you cannot have a budget for year 2. But bearing in mind our public dialogues, I said was year 2, year 3, year 2 and year 3. And I think year 1. And then the baseline was only 0, year 0. So, but you are, the participant who asked this question is 100%. I apologize, I didn't catch the name. And thank you for that. It's critical that it is informed.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dawn. I know that a number of persons have actually lost some grants as a result of over budgeting the personal costs. How should one calculate personal costs while budgeting for grants?
Dr. Akinwumi, are you referring to subsistence allowance?
Yes. How should one calculate, for instance, the hours you have invested into or that you plan to invest into the project, and cost it, especially in when it comes to persons from the developing countries? You know that for many institutions outside, that's in developed countries, they have some standard costs per hour, but for many institutions in developing countries, we don't have some of those costs in terms of hours. So how do you go about calculating such personal, cost, overhead costs? Yeah.
It's a very good question. I have an excellent budget, and it's a pity it's not part of this. I have an excellent budget to that effect. We have implemented it myself over a number of times, where I could show that this is from the staff, from the administrative level, to the research 1, to research 2, to director level, and each one's a small snippet of their role for this project. What is the hours they're going to, what are they going to do, the amount of hours, and then the costs related to that. That is are used for the Friedrich Ebert Stiftung, FES. I'll mention their name because they were one of our donors. So, so they wanted to be very specific. How are you going to roll out this project, and your staff members, the number of hours, what is going to be achieved, etc. So I do have a budget, and I can share that with you.
Okay, thank you very much. Then I also want to ask, it's necessary to provide budget justification. So, but how detailed should the budget justification be?
It depends on the donor, Dr. Akinwumi.
Okay.
Sometimes for initial proposal, you want a snapshot of the project, a 5-year, I beg your pardon, a 5-page or a 6-page proposal. And then just a draft table. It will never be so detailed. Some donors want to see detail, so that is the conversation we have to have with our donors once we've sent them our project proposal, our 5-page, and then invite a conversation, a follow-up meeting to happen, and that is where that discussion takes place. But it's important to show upfront this is what the cost, the budget in a table, in a half a page or a page table format. And the University of Johannesburg has been very successful with their fundraising, and our target is R1 billion per annum. So we've been very successful, and so I'm giving all the knowledge that I can and sharing that with you. So I hope I've answered you. But to
Yes,
give
you have.
donors a full budget like that first time, and we haven't discussed it, it can throw them off guard and just throw them off track. And it can just lose the project. So it's better to be invited in and have a discussion, but not to be misleading, to tell them up front, this is what we need.
Okay, we have 2 questions in the chat box. We have 2 minutes. I'll just read the 2 questions and ask you, Dr. Don, to provide a quick answer to them. So we have Muyiwa Oladosun is asking, from your experience, what's the range of overhead costs in terms of percentage for the implementing institution allowable? Then we have Oluyinka Eson is asking, can the cost earmarked for staff be used to buy academic staff out of scheduled duties for the hours contracted in the budget? Should I repeat the last question? Can the cost earmarked for staff be used to buy academic staff out of scheduled duties for the hours contracted in the budget? That's to buy out time for the academic involved. So over to you, Dr. Nagar.
Thanks, Dr. Kamimi, and to the 2 participants. Thank you for your questions. In terms of overhead implementing costs, again, that is according to the university. I'm working at the university. Hours is 25% of the overall budget. And that is guided by your funding principles and policies. We have a stewardship funding policy, philanthropy, and gifting policy that has been implemented by MEC level, by our members of Executive Council. That's the highest order of the land of UJ. And so it's 25% of our overall budget that we incorporate. For the second participant, I cannot answer that question because that is a discussion to be had with my boss, according to what is allowed in our project. So I'm going to be silent on that one. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Don Nagar. Thank you for this insightful and useful information that you have provided. And I want to also, just like she mentioned, for those asking questions whether they will get the presentation slide. Yes, she has promised to give us the presentation slide. Thank you so much for this session. Now we will be having a photograph, group photograph or screenshot. So I would like to invite the comms department of the Education Collaborative to take this over. Over to you.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for your time. So we'll just be taking a picture to commemorate this last session. So if you can all just show your faces, give me some lovely smiles so that I can take the picture. Thank you so much for turning your cameras on. Just waiting for a few more people. We still need a few more and then we'll take the picture. And then the last one. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. We will now invite Grace to share the session evaluation, please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Akinwumi. Hi, everyone. So I have put the link to the evaluation in the chat. It's very important that we hear your feedback on how the session has gone, and it would help inform us on future sessions and how to make these sessions better. So please take some time. It shouldn't take more than 2 minutes. Would really love all of you on this call to fill the form. Thank you very much. Over to you, Dr. Akinwumi.
Thank you so much, Grace. I'll now invite the Vice Chancellor of Covenant University for the announcement of the next initiative. Over to you, Professor Abiodun Adebayo.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Akinwumi. Well, this is indeed a very great presentation again today. We are so excited that this last session, which was taken by Dr. Don Nagar from the University of Johannesburg, has really been able to situated what it takes to really plan for an effective budget in research project and research proposal. Of course, the valuable insight that she has shared today will go in a long way in helping us write an award-winning proposal. Dr. Naga, thank you so much for those insightful presentation. Thank you. We deeply appreciate, all of those things you have raised, and the persons who equally sent in their questions and asked questions. We appreciate you. And we indeed have come to the end of this webinar series. In fact, today being the last of the series, making number 4 of the series. We appreciate everyone. Thank you so much. There's no doubt that all of the lessons learned would help us to move to the next level. Please be rest assured that the slides for this particular one will be sent again. As usual, the previous ones were sent to participants or persons who attended those last 3 webinar series. So this one also will equally be sent to us very shortly. But to also mention that this series is not ending now. Why this series is ending, but there is going to be an in-person grant writing proposal that we hope will be coming forth sometimes in November to only selected persons who we're going to be sending messages to very shortly through their partner institutions. So please, in case you got a call, be rest assured that we will have you here to come to Covenant University, where we will have the in-person workshop training series. Thank you so much again. I hope every one of us, we hope this will be able to help a number of persons, but we are not able to bring in many persons as we can because of limited funding. But there's no doubt that we'll be sharing some of our feedback to us later on in a proposed publication that will be coming up very shortly, which will also be very helpful to us. On behalf of the Covenant University, and would like to appreciate the Education Collaborative hosted at the Ashesi University. Thank you so much for the wonderful partnership, courtesy of MasterCard Foundation. We appreciate this wonderful initiative, and we trust that we'll keep deepening our collaboration between this institution and the West African Hub. We like to appreciate indeed all our participants, even as we all plan together to strengthen our efforts in our research, effort in proposal, effort in driving hard towards making our institution a globally competitive institution, even through research. Once again, thank you so much, and God richly bless you.
Thank you so much, the Vice Chancellor of Covenant University. And that brings us to the end of the session. Thank you for joining. Have a wonderful day. Bye.